All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Congratulations. You had some pretty exciting section meets. It was fun seeing the results come in. Congrats to you, whether you qualified a team or one individual or 6 individuals. My name's Amy Doherty. You may have seen my name in emails. And my colleague Amy Ince is here as well. She's the one who emailed you. I put a slide in, I think I have it as like slide 23 or something that's about weather, but I did that on Saturday and I just told my colleagues, Amy and Laura, who you'll hear from in a minute, that I'll just jump right to it. Those of you who have hosted gymnastics meets before know that it's not real easy to reschedule them, right? To find a gym and find equipment and find seating for 2,500 and find 30 plus judges and a date that works for absolutely every one of you and every one of your kids. So it's supposed to snow this week, as it has for state gymnastics other times, and we're a go. One year I had for state speech, they were expecting big snowstorms, and there were some teams that came in on Wednesday night for a competition on Friday, Saturday, and it turns out good that they did because some of them had roads closed. So work with if you're a coach, talk with your AD. We'd love to see you here. So hopefully you can get here, but both girls hockey, which will be next door to our tournament, and girls gymnastics is a go, because the other option would be not having it, and I sure don't like that option. So I see you got me to the weather slide. Thanks, Amy. Well, then I'll just talk about the last thing on here. So now I'm out of order. Our judge supervisor, Ann Suits, who many of you know, I already provided her a list of, here are people who are eligible judges who will be working each session in another role. Like there might be a beam timer who's a highly eligible judge. So I gave that to Ann so that if on Friday there's a judge stuck in the snow, she'll know, okay, I can grab that person. But then there's a chance I might come up to you and say, oh my gosh, I need a beam timer. Do you have any parents up there? And just kind of wanted to give you a heads up that there's a chance, if things are bad, that this is going to be a team effort. So now we can jump back to the beginning, and I'll introduce you to our colleague, Laura, who will cover the next bunch of slides. Laura, are you around?
Good afternoon, everyone. And as Amy said, congratulations for qualifying for the state gymnastics meet. I'm going to talk through a few resources, ticketing, information type resources for everyone on the call. First of all, I think, Amy, if you'd go ahead a slide, filling in for my colleague, Tim Layton, today, who usually presents this information. Just a reminder that if you have media from your communities that are attending, they do need to apply for and be approved for a state tournament credential. So ADs, anything you can do to help share that news. Often they're kind of used to coming to your meets during the year and knowing that things have changed for the state tournament and they need to go through that approval process. Having you help us with that is much appreciated. We also do have a student media program that is designed to give students a state tournament media experience. This is not meant to have additional managers or additional players, participants attend. This is really for those students in your school who are interested in a journalism, media, social media type career. This applies for up to 2 students and 1 faculty advisor. And ADs, you are the person who needs to apply for those credentials for them. Just like a regular media, they also need to be approved to come. For gymnastics, student media is only available on team day. There are not student media allowed on Saturday, which is the individual day. And that matches what we do in a number of other tournaments where there are simply too many schools who are on site to make that program manageable. Media applications are 7 p.m. the day before the tournament begins, which in this case would be 7 p.m. Thursday. We do have a media@mshsl.org email. If you have questions on any of this, please reach out and let us know how we can assist you with that.
Laura,
Yes.
Sarah from Eastridge asked a question in the chat. Do they need to reapply for each activity, or if they were approved for volleyball, is it good?
They apply per tournament that they're going to apply for.
Okay, thanks.
Sarah, great question. The initial piece you go through to register your school is the same. Then you just add additional kids and assign them to tournaments from there on out. So the same login that got you in this fall will get you in going with that. Moving on, looking at some resources for tickets. All tickets should be purchased online. MSHSL.org/tickets will actually redirect you out to the ticketing site for Roy Wilkins and the X. Ticket prices are listed at $15 for adults, $10 for students. That is inclusive of fees. And then tickets for these events must be shown on a smartphone. There is not a way to print a ticket and present paper at the door. They must be on that smartphone, and they can either be in the ticket app or you can forward those into your Apple and/or Google Wallet. Folks, for team gymnastics, ADs, you will be or may have already received your 4 school comp tickets. Those will come directly from the X that you push into your My Wild app, and then you may transfer those on to other folks. Watch for those. Amy Ince, if you can give us a nod, do you know if those have been sent already or if they're on their way?
I do not know if they've been sent. I did send the qualifying schools information to Christina at the Excel Center, who distributes those tickets. I sent that to her on Saturday night. But they had 2 Wild games and a Blake Shelton concert over the weekend that I think they were trying to wrap up before they switched gears to girls hockey and gymnastics. So the Excel has the information, and she's usually real good about sending that out quickly.
And just to note that that email does come from the Excel Center. Sometimes we're used to deleting those as junk mail. This is one that you will want to keep. Moving on, some resources for you to push out to your community and those that are going to attend. MSHSL.org/gymnastics takes you directly to the gymnastics page. Can also be accessed through the sports and activities button up at the top. This page and those blue buttons will continue to grow as we move toward the tournament on Friday. This is really the landing spot that you should be sending your community and fans to get prepared. Often these are links that you may be trying to collect, and we've tried to help you out by having them all in one place. There's a link to tickets here. The schedule is here. There is a streaming out to link out to streaming, apparel, results. This is where the program will be linked once that is prepared. Know that these will again continue to grow as we move toward the tournament. One that I would draw your attention to is the spectator guide. The spectator guide that's there is about a 2-page handout, a PDF that could be printed or emailed out to others. Again, this is something that often our ADs have spent a lot of time pulling together for their fans. And we believe that that spectator guide is something that you can use to save time, perhaps wrap it in a little extra information about your community, but really provide your fans all of that information that they want. Programs, if we move ahead, programs are all online as they have been for the last 3 years, I believe. We'd encourage people to view, print, or bookmark those. And again, 2 quick links to get there, either through that gymnastics page, or we also have a programs page where all of our programs get linked. So know where those are and please share those out with others. Apparel for gymnastics will be sold on site at Roy Wilkins. You can see the location there. We do encourage you to purchase early for best selection. It will also be available online. I believe it's out there currently for you to view. Online shopping usually goes live mid-tournament, And then online is available until 11:59 p.m. Tuesday. We'd encourage you to buy on site, but at the same time, know that online might be the best option, or if they sell out of something on site. We are incredibly pleased, Amy, if you can go ahead. We're working with Signature Concepts this year, and their apparel has been just amazing, as has their service, etc. They are working hard to have enough merchandise at each tournament. The good news is their merchandise has been selling quite well, and they have unfortunately run out at times. And again, that online will help with that, and they can fulfill those orders online. So excited for merchandise. Gymnastics sweatshirt and t-shirt look amazing, and hope you find that while you're at the tournament also. Streaming, again, as we think about the weather and what that might potentially mean for your communities, streaming will cover all of gymnastics. They will have multiple cameras on site each day. Our partner is NSPN. They were formerly known as Prep Spotlight and/or School Space. It is the same company we've worked with for a number of years. They have simply rebranded themselves and are now NSPN. They are a subscription rate by month this year. That changes from what they were last year. Last year, they were per event. And at this point for this year, $9.99 gets you a month-long subscription, which again would entitle you to all of those state tournament games that they cover. And then finally, we've talked about the public. One more up, Amy. Looking at information for coaches and ADs. This spot, coaches and ADs, on your dashboard is the spot where all of the information for you and your tournament logistics is being placed. Each of you on your dashboard has a button that looks much like number 1. Number 2 has a band that says gymnastics, girls. And then underneath that band, when you click that little plus, it opens up like the number 3. And on that right side, there are all of your state tournament resources. Things that Amy may have sent out via email, those are being placed in this spot. So as you can't find the email or aren't quite sure which document that was or where you might have put it, this is your spot to come back and find all of those state tournament documents in one place. And again, both coaches and ADs, you will both find this section on your dashboard to help you find those state tournament resources. As I turn it back to Amy, she is going to start talking through some of those resources that you'll find. And again, those are in there as she starts talking through them. If you need to find them or when you need to find them, here's your spot to go find those resources. Amy?
Thanks, Laura. It's really easy for Laura to just say, turn it over to Amy, not knowing which Amy she's turning it over to. I'm going to cover this slide, and then my colleague Amy Ince will hop on to cover a bunch of them. Just so you know, when you do find that participating schools guide, which hopefully you have found by now, do note that there's one for team and one for individual. So if you are both in both competitions, make sure you look at both, because there's some things that are different on individual day than team day. If you only qualified on individual day, make sure you look at the top of that guide and make sure you're reading the right one, because while it will look the same, it'll look, similar setup. There are some policies that are different just because of how many people we'll have on the floor on that day. And also, just so you know, not everything is covered here. We're not going to go through the whole guide here. So if you haven't already poured over it, make sure you look at it. Typically, new coaches and new ADs are always really looking at it, but this is a reminder to those of you who have been there 20 times before. We still need you to look at it, because sometimes some things change. I will turn it over to my colleague Amy Ince to cover some of the things that you'll find in the tournament or in the participating school guide.
Thank you. Just real briefly, back to the discussion about comp tickets being sent to ADs by the Excel Center. Each AD of the qualifying team will also receive a parking pass for Friday. That will be sent out by me later today or tomorrow. So your 4 comp tickets to the AD of each qualifying team have been or will be sent out by the Excel Center. Your 1 parking pass for Friday for qualifying teams will be sent to the AD later today or tomorrow. Regarding those participating school guides, there are 2 forms in there that you need to fill out, 2 tournament admittance forms. One is for coaches and the other is for students. We're going to touch on the coaches one first. The AD needs to sign off on the form. And this is where you will list your 1 head coach, your 1 assistant coach, and your 2nd assistant coach or spotter that receive complimentary admission through the pass gate to the state meet. All of the coaches listed must have completed all of their CER requirements, including the concussion module, the general, and the gymnastics online rules meeting. And we do go through and check these to make sure if those haven't been completed, the coach will not be allowed admittance through the pass gate at the state meet. Also on this form, if you have additional coaches or spotters who are official members of your regular season coaching staff and have been with you all season and have met those online requirements I just talked about, they can also be admitted through the pass gate for a charge of $15 per session. And they will receive a hand stamp and be allowed out on the competition floor. Again, these are for official members of your coaching staff. It's not for a college coach or a spouse or grandparent or parent of someone on your team. They have to be official members of the regular season coaching staff and have to have met their online requirements. The $15 per session payment, there'll be an online payment option on site that you'll scan a QR code and can pay online on your phone. We'll also take cash and check as we have in the past before and issue you a receipt. So just know the only change there is that there'll be an online payment option that you can scan at the pass gate and take care of payment for those. A physician and an athletic trainer will be provided by the MSHSL. School medical personnel are not admitted through the pass gate or considered part of your coaching staff. They would need to purchase a ticket and they would not be allowed on the competition floor. They can meet with your athletes if needed out in the lobby area, but they're not allowed on the competition floor because we have an athlete and physician hired for each session. The 2nd tournament admittance form is for students. Competing athletes and alternates names do not need to be entered on this form. They were submitted via the section results, and so we have all that information. If you are a qualifying team, you are allowed 1 student manager to be identified on the tournament admittance form. Only for qualifying teams. Individual all-around schools that have qualifiers do not get a student manager, do not identify a student manager. For teams on Friday, your student manager can go onto the competition floor and be seated with your team. On Saturday, your student manager can come in through the pass gate at no charge, but they would need to remain in the spectator seating area just because we don't have the space in that team seating area on Saturday with a number of teams that are going to be there. So again, student managers are allowed for qualifying teams only. They can sit with your team on the competition floor on Friday. On Saturday, they can be admitted free of charge, but would have to sit in the spectator seating area. In addition, on this tournament admittance form for students, if you have any non-competing athletes who are members of your regular season squad and who are arriving with your team to Roy Wilkins, they can also pay $15 a session, check in at the pass gate. They are not allowed on the competition floor. They would remain in the spectator seating area. And again, this $15 charge is because they're being admitted early and would have in and out privileges for that session. If you just have students on your team that are coming as spectators, they would just purchase a regular student ticket for $10. The $15 per session is intended for students that are arriving several hours early with your team and wish to watch warm-ups, and they would need to do that again from the spectator seating area. Sorry, Amy, I thought this one was yours, but I think this one is still mine.
I can do it if you want.
No, that's fine. I got it.
Okay.
I thought this was the student worker one. If you're a team competitor and you have additional students on your team that are competing or serving as an alternate on Friday, but did not qualify to compete on Saturday, they can come in with complimentary admission through the pass gate on Saturday, but would need to be seated in the spectator section. Again, we don't allow any extra non-competing athletes to be on the competition floor on Saturday because of space considerations. Now, Amy Doherty, this one's you.
Okay, and I'll add, in addition to space considerations for that last piece, it's frankly, it's not really fair for, if the kids who are on teams get their whole team with them on individual day, it's not really fair for the other individuals not to have their whole team with them on the floor. So those who qualified to compete on Saturday will be allowed access to the floor on Saturday. And there's always one person who says, oh, but I need to have my manager because somebody needs to pull the board. And I always say, I absolutely guarantee you, I can find you 5 other coaches in your section who can help pull the board. If you have not been to the state meet before, you'll quickly see that it's, I think, one of the best, one of our best examples of teamwork in all of MSHSL, everything, how the coaches just work together on individual day, you know, pulling boards, setting bars, that you don't care whose kids they are. You just all work together so well. The student worker requirement, as some of you know, we used to have our announcer, Allie Cronk, ask for workers over and over and over and over. And we got to the point where we just couldn't find enough. And we need some in order to have our meet, you know, run efficiently. If we're asking all of our judges to enter scores and post scores, it's going to slow down everything. So starting a few years ago, we implemented a student worker requirement. I'm putting that in quotation marks because it's a little bit flexible. If you qualified a team, we're asking you to provide 3 student workers for Friday's team competition. Now, if you tell me that there's no one, I'll probably look up above and I'll say, well, what about those 50 kids who are sitting there cheering, you know, cheering for you? So we're asking you to have 3. They don't need to be gymnasts. Now, if you, some will show up with 4, some might show up with 2. If you know you're not going to have any, you'll have to let us know, because we're going to have to scramble and find some other school that can help you out. But I just saw something from Amy pop up. I'll be done with this one soon, Amy. And then the individual day, there's no, it's hard for us to figure out the exact number because we never know exactly how many individuals we have. We know how many spots there are, but some schools will qualify 7, some will qualify 1. So we're asking those of you who have 2 or more gymnasts competing on Saturday to provide 1 student worker. So a manager or a JV gymnast would be perfect for this. Student workers receive free admission, so make sure they don't pay. We'll give them a t-shirt, and positions are assigned first come, first serve. So if they know they want to work floor, they can show up at the pass gate early. Amy, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, back to the slide real quick. If you, as coaches who are designated on the tournament admittance form, and athletes who, if you have 2 athletes who are just competing on Saturday, they are welcome to attend the sessions on Friday at no charge. They should check in and enter at the pass gate, and will be given direction from there. Again, that's just athletes who are participating on Saturday can enter via the pass gate free of charge to either session on Friday. That doesn't include if you have additional team members who aren't competing in the meet, they would need to purchase a ticket. And I hope that clears it up. I think there was a question about what time do student workers need to arrive. I think Amy addressed that. If they're really set on working one event, they should get there early. We have somebody available at the pass gate assigning kids to events, you know, an hour, hour and a half before the session. If they're not picky about what event, they, I would say, should get there at least a half hour before the session start time so they can receive their t-shirt and be given direction before the meet starts.
Those of you who are asking about working other sessions, if you can shoot me an email, that's kind of how I just start piecing together things. You know, I hear from one that says we can't do this session, but we can do the other, and vice versa. And just send me an email and I'll start working on all that. And my email address is at the end, but I think a lot of you have it. School admin reps, just like all of our other team activities, we require you to have a school admin rep during Friday's team competition. This is preferably an administrator. If it's not going to be an administrator, it should be a very experienced and very well-known staff member, and you should let us know who that person is in advance. Typically, the conduct at State Gymnastics is awesome, loud and awesome. Appropriate signs. I feel like the biggest problems we might have is like people trying to bring balloons in or something. That's a terrific problem. But we do require those schools to bring an administrative rep. They should report to the pass gate, and Amy Ince will be at the pass gate. And as Amy already said, you'll receive 4 comp tickets for those sessions. There is still going to be a coaches meeting. We've always in the past had a coaches meeting. I know this sort of feels like that, but this is, I think, has more information, for ADs, et cetera. So we'll still have that, slightly rushed coaches meeting in the morning in the coaches lounge. I'm going to say backstage area a lot. If you haven't been there yet, when you get there, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. There's the vault is on the far side, and then there's these dividers, and behind the dividers is what I'm calling backstage. Again, you'll know when you see it. So we will still have that coaches meeting promptly at those times. And that is during general warm-up. We would ask that if you have multiple coaches, we still need the gymnasts supervised. So work, within your coaching staff or your section staff to, make sure there's somebody out there for your gymnast while somebody else is attending the coaches meeting. Cards. We'll probably end up talking about this in the meeting as well. In your packet that you'll pick up when you register, for team competition, coaches, you're going to get a lineup card, and that's where you'll write the athlete name and number for your vault lineup, bars lineup, beam, floor. So what's in the program or what you did at sections doesn't matter to us at all. So if you're competing with 5 totally different girls, as long as those 5 are in the meet, that's fine. And you'll just write those on the lineup card. And then if you have any changes after you turn those in, find Ann Suits, who will be the meet referee, or me or somebody else working, because then we would have to make some formal changes to that. And then you'll get another set of cards that it's a big card, and it'll say 127 and 128, 129. When you're going to the event, we ask you to put the cards in order that you'll be competing. So if 127 is your first gymnast, you'll put that one in front. And then if 129 is second, you'll put that one, and you'll bring those to the chief judge table. Individual competition, there's no lineup form because they'll be competing in the line in the order listed in the program, which was not posted yet, but it will be. And then we ask that those athlete number cards be put in order and brought to the scoring table. So if you can designate one coach in your section to do that, that would be helpful. That way, the people at the scoring table aren't trying to shuffle 6 different cards. So if one person can be in charge of organizing that, that would be helpful to everybody. Okay, Amy, go ahead.
Quick question in the chat. Is Marchin begin at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. or is that the first event time? Can you address that one?
I'm 95% sure that means Marchin. I'm looking, if you've been there a lot and you are also similar. Anybody else? Not, yep. Okay, there we go. I'm looking for a couple. Yep, Dina saying yes, yes, yes. Because we're advertising the time that parents want to be there to take pictures. So the Marchin is what, thank you for verifying that for me. I remember my first 5 years, well, clearly I'm still debating it, but yes, so that's Marchin starting at that time. For Marchin, the gymnast will be instructed to line up in the, again, backstage area. For team competition, you can have the official squad and up to 4 alternates, all marching if you have 4 alternates. For individuals, we would have them all march in. Let's say somebody twists their ankle in warm-ups and might not be able to compete. It'd still be great if she could march in if she wants to. And appropriate uniforms are required. Something team appropriate. So if your team likes walking around in bedroom slippers, you know, that's fine for other parts of the meet, but not for marching. Or if they like to carry around some prop of a stuffed animal, you can bring that to your rotations, but we're not going to bring those in for march, and we try to keep marching fairly formal. All right, go ahead, Amy. Music, bring your floor music on a CD or electronic device. It's strongly encouraged to have a backup. We also, you know, we have a bunch of different chords, but it's never a bad idea to bring chords for whatever, you know, if you're using a iPod 1.0, we might not have the cord for it. So you might want to bring your iPod 1.0 cord with you. I don't even know if iPod 1.0 still exists. I see Amy kind of chuckling. And you can test your music during floor exercise warm-ups, and we'll provide the music, the other music during warm-ups and touch warm-ups. I know some schools have songs that they love, but oh, Troy Erdahl has an iPod 1.0. Awesome. I know some of you have songs that you love, but we try to go with no swearing, no drinking, no sex, which does make it hard to come up with songs. But, you know, if there's something you know you really want and it's super fun and it fits those categories, send it to Amy and I, and we'll buy it and put it on the list. But you better check those lyrics, because you think those country songs are all in the clear, and then they're not. So we'll provide the other music. Equipment, we have a list. I know some of you have already looked at this because I've heard from a few of you already. The equipment list is posted on the dashboard pages. You can bring your own springboard. You can leave your springboard overnight because now we have a large backstage area. We will have one hand placement mat at vault, but you certainly can bring your own. And then we're asking, we used to say no additional equipment can be brought in because there just wasn't space for it. Now we're saying none can be brought in unless you contact Mark Sikic or me, so we know what's coming. Like if every one of you says, I really need a spotting block that's 3 feet 6 inches, you know, it's helpful for us to say, you know what, we're already going to have 24 of those there, so we probably don't need you to bring yours. So if you have a special sting mat you want to bring, or again, spotting blocks of a very certain size that is beyond what's listed, contact Mark or contact me. And when not in rotation, the springboards will be stored backstage so that to limit what we're all tripping over, or hopefully not tripping over. Medical staff, we will provide a physician, certified athletic trainer, and EMTs. If your kids really want to be taped by a certain trainer, your trainer would have to pay admittance or have your school pay admittance for that person into the meet, but we're not going to allow them on the floor because we would have 40 trainers on the floor, and that would be excessive. If you anticipate any taping needs, if you could bring athletic tape, and I'm adding this sentence, send it to the gymnast, to the medical area, that would help. The trainers always say they go through so much tape at gymnastics. And sometimes I mention it to coaches and they're like, oh, we had tape. Our girls just didn't bring it over. So if you could actually make sure they bring the tape over, that would be helpful. All right, Amy.
Quick question in the chat about landing mats. Are you able to take a look at that and address it?
Maybe. Jen, I'm going to have to double check. I'm going to have to double check on that. I thought I had Mark look over that list a couple days ago, and because I know they were debating about something, and I had Mark look over the list and he said yes to the list, but I will double check, and Amy or I'll shoot an email. Amy, do you mind? We're going to shoot an email to all the coaches just verifying the mat. I know there was some discussion between what some of you use and what NSGEL has. I'll get in touch with everybody and make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, rotating 2 events. This just always comes up as a question, so I thought I'd just put it in here. On team day, everybody on your team can rotate. I mean, everybody on your state tournament team can rotate to each event, not just the 5 competing. We do ask that they stay behind the stanchioned area, or at least really, look like they're trying to stay behind the stanchioned area. And then individual competition. When we were at the University of Minnesota and had less space, this was always a challenge, but like Coaches Advisory and I have all agreed that it's fun for all the gymnasts in the section on Saturday to really be a team. So it gets crowded, but we would like those, if they only qualified on vault, if they'd like to rotate to beam, bars, floor with their section, I think that's fun. It's fun for all of them. They get to bond, they can cheer with each other. That said, it will get crowded enough that we don't necessarily have room for coaches who aren't coaching that event. So if you only have a girl on beam and your girl wants to go with the section to vault and bars and floor, we're going to ask you as the coach to stay in the area that we have for coaches and gymnasts over on the side, just because otherwise there's like 30 of you in the stanchioned area. And we think it's most important that the kids get to be part of the group. Yeah, I think I have everything there. And of course, if you're like the best bar setter in the whole state, but you don't have a bar person, yeah, go to bars with your section, because you'll certainly help things around. Rotating, still kind of on that topic. We ask you to stay at your event until all the events in that rotation are completed. So, we'll likely end vault and bars early. We're going to ask you to stay at vault and bars until beam and floor are done. So there's not just this mass exodus of people walking around the floor while beam and floor are still going. As usual, 1 or more coaches can go over to bars and maybe vault after completion of the previous rotation to set up. So if you're in bars rotation 3, once bars rotation 2 finishes, 1 or 2 coaches can go over there and get the bars set up, and that'll speed things along. We don't have locker rooms for participants. That's one downside to this nice big facility we have. The restrooms are not super new either, but there are restrooms on the floor for participants. And we also have a designated changing room backstage. Do not tell your kids, please, to not change in the team seating area. I know some of them just think, oh, I'll just, I have boy shorts on and a sports bra, so I'll just change right here. Let's not. Well, some of you are even shaking your heads no. Coming from the 90s, I love that kids right now are like totally comfortable with their bodies, but we just don't need to be changing in the team seating area. We have special areas for that. Okay, thank you. This one comes up every year too, because the rule book says something real specific about real specific areas where you can film. And I know during the regular season, I don't think a heck of a lot of you have a set, a stanchioned area to film. But we ask any filming or photography done by a coach, manager, or gymnast is done behind that stanchioned viewing area. That way we're following the NFHS rules, but you can still be at the event. And I had one more. We're still looking for a timer for session 1. So if you know an eligible person, will you shoot me an email if you know somebody who wants to be a timer for session 1? Okay, other tidbits. Amy and I will look at the chat in a second, but there's my email address and Amy's. And our additional on-site staff will be the same as it has been for the last few years. Troy Erdahl will be the tournament manager. Sandy Boss is the assistant tournament manager. Brian Peliquin from White Bear Lake, we always joke that his title is assistant to the assistant, but for now I put him down as the assistant. Hello, Brian, if you're watching this. Mark Sikich, who you all know, and if you don't know him, you probably do. He knows everything there is to know about, the equipment and the floor and who's using what sting mat during what rotation. So if you have any real specific equipment needs, like, okay, wait, Vault's using that, but I really need that. Pay attention to that stuff during warmups and then talk to Mark, and Mark will work it out for you. If you don't know who Mark is, literally like turn to the coach next to you and say, where's Mark Sikich? And that person will know. I was going to say you can find me, but there's a lot of people out there who will know Mark. Ann Suits is our meet referee, and Mike Schumacher and Sandy Gosen will be our scoring managers. Speaking of asking the coach next to you, if you're new to this, especially you're there on individual day and it's kind of chaotic because there's 50 schools. I promise you there are experienced coaches in your section who are more than happy to answer questions. So if you've never been to Roy Wilkins or you've never been to individual gymnastics and right now your head is spinning, I shouldn't say don't worry about it, but don't worry about it. There are tons and tons of helpful coaches, whether they're in your section or somebody else's section, who we want to make it a good experience for all the participants. And that includes making it a good experience for their coaches so that you can just worry about coaching and not worry about everything else. So, Amy, is there anything else? Oh, the banquet, I can't address that because that's not our thing. I assume you will hear from the Coaches Association about that, but I assume they're kind of in a similar boat to us. Like they already paid for it. I'm guessing they probably already paid for all the food. So I would sure have to guess that they'll probably, have it. Dina, you want to nod or?
Yeah, I can address it real quick. Yes.
Okay.
Orders have been sent,
Yeah.
meals and everything has been paid for. So we will be held to that.
Yep.
And also I wanted to let you know that the sweatshirts are going to be able to be purchased. The Minnesota State High School League sweatshirts will be able to be purchased at the banquet this year. So that'll be fun for people not having to run around and find their size and find their parent or their payment. So that should be really good.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So, similar to your Coaches Association, the venues are paid for. So, it's not snowing right now. If you're worried about the snow, get your kids in a bus or a minivan and head this way. I say that slightly tongue in cheek, but again, we had speech teams arrive 2 days early one year just because they wanted to make sure they got here. So do your very best to get here. As somebody who's lived in the city of St. Paul or a first string suburb all my life, I can tell you they plow pretty darn quickly down here, the major roads. Now, it might be hard to get out of my alley, but if you're staying in Roseville, Woodbury, Eagan, or St. Paul, I can't imagine that there won't be some way to get to the meet. Or bring your snowshoes, I guess. Okay, was there anything? So I will send out the email verifying that, or Amy will verifying the mats. If you have other questions, first, if they're real logistic, maybe go to your AD first, because lots of times these ADs have been to a whole bunch of different tournaments and might have the answer even more quickly than Amy or me. Otherwise, we are looking forward to seeing you. Super excited for the meet. It's nice we don't have to be on mask patrol this year. And unlike 2 years ago, we get to have you all under the same roof at the same time. So have a great week of practice. And be safe driving, and we'll see you on Friday.
Amy?
Yeah.
Gordon. Okay. What is your email address? I missed it, and I have an email from my section rep that says that we're on 20 centimeter mats. So I've been preparing my girls for 20 centimeter mats all year. So I just want to be able to forward that to you so that you can see that section rep meeting notes thing.
Okay, and I'll verify that. And
Okay.
honestly, worst case scenario, so I know like one year there was a girl doing a front tuck mount on beam.
Yep.
And whatever she had been preparing on was not gonna work. And so we'll tell you to bring the mat. I mean, now I know that's super inconvenient, but we won't, you know,
Really, the reality is it's going to be beam and it's going to be dropping the beam down.
yeah, exactly. So
And that's
I'll tell you my email address and then,
I also just put it in the chat.
oh, there it is in the chat.
Wonderful. So
But again, if you're really, really, you know, honed in on a certain piece of equipment, unlike at the U, we have room now. So we might say, hey, drive into the loading dock and drop off your mat. Now,
I don't
again,
need,
we'd rather you all tell us. So like 30 of you aren't bringing mats.
Hey, Amy, this is Shelley Eklund.
Hi, Shelley.
Hi. We were told at the beginning or this fall that they weren't able to get the 12 centimeter mats. That's why all the coaches are thinking it's 20 centimeter mats. I sent Mark a text message because I know this has stressed everybody out and I'm the one that was announced it at the clinic that the mats were going to be the same as at the U of M because the equipment guy said he won't be able to get the 12 centimeter mats. Do you know if this list came from Mark or if it's just an old list that we?
Yeah. Okay. So I did address that and I said I would send out an email. I just haven't been able to verify it while doing this meeting. I know there was debate and Mark and Jerry were kind of going back and forth earlier this year about which mats they could get. I never heard that there was anything official yet. Everything I heard was they were going to, you know, figure it out in January. I did have Mark look at this list and he said it's good to go. But after this meeting, I am going to verify it with Mark and Jerry, and then we will send out an email to all the coaches.
Okay, well, so then I apologize if they change it to 12 centimeter mats, people, because I was told otherwise. So when everybody's frustrated, I am upfront and apologizing about that because I was telling you what I was told to tell you. So thanks.
And I will just say, okay, Jen says she loves you anyway. So that's great. They still love you. And I would say this is the kind of time where maybe as a gymnastics community, we should work together. And if somebody really, really wants a 17.5-inch mat, great. Can you bring it? That would be helpful. You know, I only have so much access to equipment. Otherwise my access would be driving to your schools and grabbing mats. So if you don't like the answer, let's see who can volunteer to help us out and make sure all your gymnasts are comfortable.
Amy,
Yeah.
this is Martha Driscoll Nelson speaking, folks. Also, we have some qualifiers this year on Saturday, individual day. So after the Saturday meet, I'll be back in the coaches area. After the morning, I'll be back in the coaches area for anybody who needs to pick up their all-state certificates and their honorable mention. And I will also be there again from 5 to 6 for the A coaches. And then they may need to come in because you can't get back there unless you go down through the floor. So the people who do not have qualifiers, this is for Amy and Amy, the people who do not have qualifiers may need to walk through there, you know, in front of those bathrooms and stuff to get back to the coaches area to pick up their stuff. But they need to do it between 5 and 6, and then they should be out of there. And they need to do it after the competition in the morning, and then they should be out of there.
And Amy, I think you're kind of used to that, right?
Yep, and I appreciate the heads up. Thank you. And I'll watch for that. They would just need to come to the pass gate and explain the situation that you just talked about. And I'll get
Okay.
them onto the floor, get them something to get onto the floor briefly, and then come back out via the pass gate again.
That's great. Thank you.
Fortunately, there's not a huge influx of like gymnastics coach fraud people, you know,
No.
pretending they're gymnastics coaches trying to sneak into our meet. So
No, there.
and Amy knows just about every face in the gymnastics world. So we will make that work.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else?